Louis, St. Paul, The Fan.
We are flame fanning for profit. Copyright the Liberty Flames with a Gabe Henderson here. What's going on, G?
What up, Pierre?
Cool, but we also have. I mean, now we need the Southern Illinois Saluki fight song.
Where's the Saluki song?
Right. I mean, we have Ahmad Hicks from Fox 9 and Gabe Henderson, and both are athletes and played sports, but specifically football and the Southern Illinois Salukis. That's how deeply rooted in your heart is your history scholastically or whatever at Southern Illinois?
It only dates back to when I played and listened to a couple of pros from there, like Brandon Jacobs. Yeah, he was one of those big time guys from there. So that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but flame fanning.
Yeah,
I mean that's deeply rooted in your heart, isn't it?
Yeah, we've been fanning the Flames since about 2009. So
right,
this is through and through. But just being a top 25 team now in the country, 9-0.
What?
Yeah, we're ranked 25th in the country.
Could you have put me on the worst intel ever about 2 months ago when I asked you about the squad and you're like, Pete, they're not that good. You didn't say they're terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
and they brought looking next to they're 5-0. They were 5-0 when I looked at them.
I wasn't a Jamie Chadwell believer, and then I had an opportunity.
Not many are.
Right, really.
I don't even know who it is.
So he was the head coach at Coastal Carolina. They've been a top 20. It's weird. They've been a top 25 program the last few years. He gets a job at Liberty this offseason. I'm like, he's just not it. Now we're 9-0, top 25 team, and a team that's kind of making some noise as far as like a New Year's Six bowl. So
has a player the caliber of Brandon Jacobs ever fanned the Flames?
Rashad Jennings was a running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We actually had a first round. No, so in the 21st century, no.
Rashad Jennings.
We got Jeremy Chin now too.
Oh wow,
he went there.
That's
crazy.
Yeah,
started as a true freshman. Yeah. And Ryan Neal, he's a safety that plays for
Washington.
No, he plays for the Bucks now.
Oh, for the Bucks.
Yeah. So
okay.
He was one
now
of
you're
those
showing
guys
off.
Started as a true freshman.
I was going to save this for later, but let's just get into it right now. You ready? That's Ahmad Hicks at Ahmad Hicks TV on Twitter, and Gabe A. Henderson also via X, which used to be known as Twitter. Gabe Henderson and Ahmad Hicks both here, so we're very happy to have them on the 9 to Noon radio show. And let's get right deep into it.
This guy.
Which provides a better route for high-end pro sports talent? The Charlotte Raleigh area or St. Louis?
Hold on, football or basketball?
I said better route for high-end pro sports talent. Charlotte Raleigh or St. Louis?
That's a really good question. And Ahmad, I'll probably have you start because Martin Nance, our executive vice president here, he's from St. Louis. And he always talks about the high-end talent that comes out of St. Louis. And I'm like, okay, so you probably know better than I do.
For sure. I feel like I won't say slept on because a lot of players from St. Louis are making it out recently, especially when it comes to college football and NFL football.
Like who?
Luther Burden, one of the top receivers. He's in the Heisman rankings right now, top 10 this year. He's the guy at Mizzou right now.
Wasn't Jackie Joyner Kersey?
Yeah, she's from East St. Louis. Yeah,
St. Louis, wow.
Luther Burden went to the same school. He's over at Mizzou now. Yeah, so they have another, it's a lot of Division I football guys that come from there.
But when Gabe starts talking, it's going to be like,
I'm sure he's going to have way
Sam
more than
Perkins,
us.
James Worthy, Michael Jordan, Chris Paul.
It's not coming to name, but we got a lot of small names. A lot of small names. But in basketball, I mean, we got Jason Tatum and Brad Beal. I mean, two of the best players in the NBA right now. So, and they went to the same high school. So
wow,
but that's
close to the same time.
And David Lee, they all went to the same school. Yeah, they were 4
David
years
Lee
apart.
Warriors.
Yep.
4 years.
They all went to Chaminade High School. But other than that, that's all the basketball players we got. Like big name guys.
Well, St. Louis represented a little better than I thought it would. I thought
just a little bit.
Jackie Joyner Kersey. Yeah. I mean, that's tough to get around.
Leon Spinks.
Leon Spinks, St. Louis.
Yeah.
With Leon, you got to have Michael, right?
Tyron Woodland, man.
Yeah.
Do y'all mention his name anymore?
Wow. Yeah, his son actually played football at DeSmet. He's a Division II football player now, I believe. Yeah.
Ezekiel Elliott, is he a St. Louis native?
He went to John Burroughs.
Come on!
Ohio State. Yeah.
Well, now St. Louis is showing off.
Ryan Howard, that's not bad.
Yeah, he's from St. Louis. Lafayette High School.
With the Spinks brothers, Michael and Leon, and Jackie Joyner Kersey. There's a line somewhere in there about
Jeremy Macklin.
I can understand why you need to run fast and fight. We're just going to go ahead and stop it right there.
Here we go.
What?
Jason Tatum.
He said that.
Oh, he did. Okay.
He said Tatum and Bradley Beal. Mm-hmm. All right, so what's your counter? Go ahead and fan a flame.
I'll just put it this way. The NBA came out with a survey, and the survey said, what state has the most current NBA basketball players represented?
North Carolina?
North Carolina.
Really?
We can't compete.
I think North Carolina has about 67 current NBA players.
But if he went to Missouri, there may be, like, the Wilt Chamberlain might have come from Branson. I mean, we could get back to, like, some old schoolers from, like, Branson. So we're just going St. Louis. Yeah. And I even gave you two, Charlotte and Raleigh.
Oh, you got Keenan Allen right now.
Oh.
Charlotte, Charlotte is, Dexter Lawrence from Raleigh.
Who
what
am I thinking? Chris Paul?
Chris Paul is from Winston-Salem, so that's still like the Triad region. So Raleigh is more eastern. Charlotte.
Did your mom used to babysit Chris Paul?
She did used to babysit Chris Paul.
That's one of the greatest. Like we're bringing Gabe into the radio this time last year. Had him on a few times, getting to know him, maybe a couple of years ago, and he's telling a story. And he said, when my mom babysat Chris Paul, and I'm like, what? Your mom? Wow. She did. And she taught him the crossover dribble. It happened to be down on his bib. Well, that's okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
PJ Tucker?
PJ Tucker is from Raleigh. John Wall is, I wish he was still in the league. But still,
technically he is.
Yeah,
he's collecting a big paycheck.
Yes, he is. About a $200 million paycheck.
Ooh.
But hey, to each his own when it comes to that. I'm a little, I got a sore spot for Jay. But at the same time, when you talk about Raleigh and Charlotte, I can't really put my hand on just like current guys that are up and coming outside of St. Louis. I don't think I'm really as tapped into that market as much anymore now that I'm working in the league.
Well, St. Louis providing the baseball talent that is provided, like Ryan. That totally makes sense with the reverence people have for baseball in St. Louis.
And they got a lot of guys coming out now, like Jeremiah McClellan, guy at CBC. He's committed to Ohio State. Ryan Wingo, the third 5-star receiver, he just committed to Texas. So a lot of Division I talent coming from St. Louis each and every
Is
year.
it a conversation in there where keeping that talent local?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a problem?
Eli
in Missouri?
Drinkwitz, since he came to Mizzou, I think 3 or 4 years ago, that's been a big thing for him. So keeping Luther Burden was huge. Him losing McClellan and Wingo hurts Mizzou a lot, but I think they're in line to get another guy out of Arkansas. So, it's okay, but I like to say that St. Louis is on the map for high school football and sending guys to Division I level now.
But since you've been here, you've heard that, like, locally here,
for sure.
It's all about anytime there's talent and they go somewhere else. Why can't we keep these guys local? Yeah. We're not the only market that has that problem.
Sheldon Richardson was one of those guys. He went to JUCO, then he was committed to Mizzou, then USC pried him away, then Mizzou was able to get him back. So he's one of those guys from St. Louis. Yeah.
Ahmad Hicks, he works with Fox 9 in the sports department. Gabe Henderson, Vikings.com, Vikings Entertainment Network. They both were in attendance for the Dobbs Delirium. We will get into that and much more around the corner. But first, here's the cash thing with Brett Blakemore.
The cash thing, the fan and 2 men in a junk truck want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand at the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com, enter the keyword cash. The keyword is cash for the cash thing. KFAN.com.
KFAN, the fan.
It's a Wild Wednesday on The Fan, sponsored by Jim Beam, family made and crafted, and we want to send you to the game. Caller 11 right now will win a pair of tickets to your Minnesota Wild take on the Dallas Stars this Sunday, November 12th. 1-800-320-5326. That's 1-800-320-5326 for a Wild Wednesday. Good luck.
Assume this is Salukis radio on KFAN, right?
Here we go, Southern Go.
We are
remember that song.
Equal opportunity fight song deliverer. The 9 to noon show, Ahmad Hicks, Fox 9, Southern Illinois. Gabe Henderson, he's a Flame fanner from Liberty and the Vikings Entertainment Network. It's so strange to say it that way, but you are. Do you fan Flames?
I do fan Flames.
That makes you a Flame fanner.
Yeah, I'm a Flame fan. Yes.
In a roundabout way.
I just never heard the word switch like that before.
Right. Before we get into some Dobbs delirium, because both you guys were there at Georgia Dome, and Ahmad was hosting, doing Vikings Game Day Live.
Yes, sir.
Vikings Game Day Live Sunday. First, did you really say on KFAN radio, losing Justin Jefferson is the best thing that could have happened to Kevin O'Connell?
I said that with context. But of course, the
preposterous
statement only heard that portion.
PST, but you did say it.
Yes.
What's the context?
The context was it forces Kevin O'Connell to be creative.
Oh.
When you have the number one receiver in the NFL.
But that's an insinuation he wasn't being creative before.
Well, when you have the number one receiver in the NFL, your automatic first go-to is, let's get this guy the ball. Now, when he's not playing, it's, okay, let's open this playbook, see where guys fit best, give the ball to the best player with coverages and so on and so forth. So
I can tell you that even with that context, it's going to be in the tournament.
Oh, for sure.
And it's going to rate pretty well with the listeners.
Oh, it's prohibitively favored to win.
Well, if the Vikings win the Super Bowl, like, how does that? How do we? Like, does it not come out of that?
If they're in the Super Bowl and everybody else but Justin is winning the game for them, or
well, Kevin O'Connell's 4-0 without Justin Jefferson.
Okay. Well, then maybe in the offseason, maybe in the offseason.
So you're saying trade him then?
No, that's not
putting that out 9 to noon.
What are we doing here?
It's a better team. It's a better team without JJ.
I know. Georgia shows up and everybody starts to get weird.
Closed circuit Tennessee and the preposterous statement committee.
Right.
Oh man. Let me stop talking.
You both were in Atlanta. Ahmad first. What do you think they've tripped onto with Josh Dobbs?
I think Gabe and I talk a lot about this, and it's just a quarterback that can extend plays, and he can make Kevin O'Connell look good even when the play that he called is not available. And that's something that you didn't have in Kirk Cousins. Love him to death, but he's one of those going through his reads guy, and my 1, 2, 3 reads not open, we're checking it down or we're getting rid of the football. With Josh Dobbs, it's like, all right, the pocket is crashing. It's a mess in front of me. I'm going to use my speed. I'm going to get outside. And, that's something Wes Phillips talked about yesterday. He said, I didn't realize how athletic Josh Dobbs was until the game versus the Falcons. And so I just think it's a new element for this offense, not to say that they're calling more running plays for him, but he's able to keep the play alive and make something out of nothing. And I think that's what they stumbled on. It's just someone that can, a new element to this offense that kind of makes it go a little more now.
Yeah, that improvisation is something that Kevin O'Connell thrives on. When you look at just Matt Stafford, he may not have the improvisation with his legs, but he had it with his arm. And that's something that Kevin O'Connell feeds on, and that's something Josh Dobbs does with his legs. On top of that, I just look at the quarterbacks available via trade deadline that could honestly still have the mental capacity to be able to go in and plug and play. And Josh Dobbs was literally the only guy available in free agency or available via trade that could have came in and started to make plays. He's already seen the game. He's seen the speed of the game 7 or 8 weeks. And it was just a unique situation simply because Arizona, they're getting Kyler Murray back. They have their backup already intact. So it's like, we got to find a way to get rid of this guy just from being on the roster. So for Kevin O'Connell saying, look, you don't know all the plays, but the last 7 weeks you've seen too high, so you know where to go with the ball. That's what we want you to do right now. Just look in that direction. One high, you go the other way with the ball. And that's something that, in my opinion, no other quarterback could have done, even Jaron Hall, simply because he hadn't had the game reps this season. You can't coach game reps, and Josh Dobbs had that, and I believe that's what showed on the field on top of what Ahmad said with his legs.
Yeah, and I think Kevin O'Connell was in his bag this past Sunday. I mean, you just see all the post-game stuff where you're talking about he's having to get the play in to Dobbs and then basically tell him, like, hey, here's your cliff notes. Yeah. Look, like Gabe said, too high, you're going here with the football. One high, you're going there with the football. And for Dobbs to be able to process all of that, I mean, I don't think either one of them are getting enough credit for what they pulled off this past Sunday. That is not an easy feat. It's hard enough trying to read defenses like that on Madden and going somewhere with the football, like, let alone in a real NFL game.
Come on, man.
I always think of the receiver perspective. And I asked Brendan Powell earlier this week, I was like, in the huddle, when Jaren Hall was in the huddle versus Josh Dobbs, when they were giving you plays, like, how did you feel? Like, did you feel confident going out there? And Brandon Powell said, Josh Dobbs came in the huddle knowing the plays. Like, no, you got this, you got that, delegating plays at the line of scrimmage, check, versus Jaren Hall. Like, he was still doing his thing, but it takes the process a little bit longer for him to go in the huddle and say, you got this. He's more so reading the plays off of the wristband versus Josh Dobbs. He looks at the play one time and says, all right, boom, 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 boom. So, when you have a quarterback that's confident in the playbook, confident in his abilities, and already understands how to play the game, that makes all other 10 guys in the huddle confident in what they're supposed to do.
So both you guys, whether a Saluki or a Flame catching passes, what was it like if you are Brandon Powell, if you're Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson? We can start with you, Ahmad, in terms of what changes for you, not necessarily from a confidence perspective, but where that ball is supposed to be, where it's going to be, and some instant on-the-fly chemistry that has to take place.
I think the job remains the same as a wide receiver: catch the football and get open. I mean, it's as simple as that. You can't cheat your routes, and it's one of those things where you can't really improvise at that time, because if they're calling a play and you're supposed to cut at 7 yards, you need to be cutting at 7 yards, because Dobbs doesn't have that chemistry with you to throw you short at 6 or take you long to 8 or 9. So I think as a wide receiver, it's pretty simple. Do your job, run your routes, get open, catch the football, make a play after you catch the football.
So with Dobbs, all right, now Jefferson will return. I ain't going to bet that he's going to return this week, but he's going to return. So now, you have Josh who can run, and Josh who can run fast, and the strength facet of it, where like Bud Dupree had him decently, got out of it. Whomever 20 is, I can't remember. He really had him. Josh got out of it. That strength with the legs that you see like from Mahomes. So with this, a creative, offensive-minded staff, which really this is the first opportunity Dobbs has had in a situation like this, with a guy like Justin, with a guy like Hawkinson's on fire, an offensive line with a couple of good tackles. I mean, I am absolutely not willing to say the sky is the limit for Josh Dobbs. And I'm certainly not going to say he can start football games here for 10 years, but I'm also not going to say that was lightning in a bottle and go sit in the corner and be on the practice squad. I mean, he's never been involved in a situation like this with a coach like O'Connell and a staff full of nothing but Super Bowl rings. So do you think that's taking it too far too soon?
I wouldn't say taking it far too soon, but I know if you're Kwesi, you're still thinking about next year, and just some of these injuries right now kind of enforces this competitive rebuild that we've been talking about the past couple of years. The fact that, KJ isn't in, or Justin Jefferson isn't in. Now you get to see, okay, how good did we actually draft? Like, how good is Tristan Jackson, the guy we picked up in free agency? How good is Jalen Naylor and
Ivan Pace Jr.? I mean, Mekhi Blackman. So you finally get to see what this competitive rebuild looks like. So, yeah, Josh Dobbs, he's making plays and he's doing what he needs to do. But at the same time, I really believe your evaluation period comes when you start to look at some of these guys that are getting opportunities due to injuries. So what do you guys love about the Vikings defense? I had Brian Flores on the radio show earlier. We're going to play the interview back about 10 minutes from now. So just what do you guys like about the defense from where it started to where it is?
The versatility. Yeah. I asked Brian Flores yesterday, I said, coming into the season, there was this stereotype on the Vikings and how the defense wasn't good. They were horrendous last year, and you don't have any more talent this year to work with, yet they're 14 or 15 spots better than where they were last year. And I think that just goes to the talent that he has, but also putting the guys in the right position and also giving them the confidence to go out there and make a play. They all believe that they can make a play. Yep. And I think we see every week, whether it's Danielle Hunter, DJ Wanham, or just like Ivan Pace Jr., like you just mentioned, or Byron Murphy Jr., Josh Metellus, there's always somebody new stepping up. Jordan Hicks, the list goes on. And so I think it's a defense that's playing with the chip on their shoulder right now, but they're also believing in their leader. Gabe, you'll get this, like Brian Flores showed up to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium this past week in black Air Force Ones. And we all know, like, when you wear black Air Force Ones, you mean business. Like, you're not messing around when you wear those.
PA knows this. Brian Flores wore it to chapel. He wore the chapel the night before. He wore those black Air Force Ones. I'm hey, you don't have to be on that chapel,
but
man.
See, I'm not trained yet to immediately go to the shoes unless it's Gabe. I mean, I'd love to see your shoe closet, man. I'm going to guess you have 50 pair of Nikes.
If I have 50, Ahmad has 60.
Oh, really?
Ahmad's a sneaker.
But do you guys clean your shoes between wearings?
Yeah.
Like wipe the side off?
Yeah.
They last longer.
Because your shoes always look new.
Yeah, when you buy a pair, it's an investment.
Yeah, they
like
last
these shoes
longer.
are going to last 5 years from now. And they're going to look the same exact way when I bought them 5 years.
But black Air Force Ones, it doesn't matter. If you clean them or not. That's a business shoe. And he showed up to the game, and I said, "You mean business today with these shoes on?" He said, "You know what time it is," and I was like, "All right." These guys are taking after him right now.
I asked him that same question in chapel a couple weeks ago. I'm like, "This is how you come to chapel? Like this is?" And
before Green Bay or Atlanta or both?
Both.
Jeez, and we went bam bam.
I mean, it might be in the last 4 games.
Yeah.
It might
Who needs Harrison Phillips when you got the shoes? Hey, that was fantastic. Next time we do it, I'd like to go the full hour if you guys don't mind, because Brian Flores, we're going to replay an interview with him earlier today. If you missed it, defensive coordinator for the Vikings, around the corner on KFAN. Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores was nice enough to stop by very early in the show. We opted to start the show with B-Flow, and we played a couple of highlights. The first highlight, during it was said, and Jonnu Smith goes in motion. And you look at the defensive coordinator and the producer, Nordo, they both looked at each other like, whoa, is this going to be that long Jonnu Smith touchdown? It wasn't, but that's how we started, and here was B-Flow's reaction.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great players in our league. And so many great coaches who put their players in good positions to make plays. And, that was one of those situations the other day. And that happens occasionally. You try to keep those big plays, off the tape, as I say, to our players, really on a weekly basis. But, I just love the way we responded to that. With Caleb making a play and then Murphy making a play and then our offense making plays as well, and it was a total team effort and such a fun game to be a part of. Took a lot out of me, as I'm sure it did a lot of Viking fans. But it was a fun one to be a part of.
Brian, it's been a treat watching the 2 years of a Caleb Evans development. And I know you weren't here last year, but he had the concussion problems. Then he would come back and play. We had a game at FedEx Field where it might have been on special teams. He hit somebody as hard as I've seen anybody hit the entire season last year, but then he was in and out. And we had that Chargers game where he's going to pick it off and it falls into the hands of Josh Palmer. And, he bounces back to continue to improve during the season. But for a Caleb, the 3 forced fumbles, through 9 games, 3 is a decent number. Oh, yeah. So he's a tough kid, isn't he?
For sure. Absolutely. And I think the evolution of a young player, to watch it happen, I think that's a big, one of the things I love about coaching. Young players, first, second year players, they can drive you crazy because they're still learning the game. They're learning how to play, in this league. They're like your kids, at a young age, and you're just trying to develop them. And, there are times where they got to get burned before they realize, what's right and wrong and how to prepare, how to be professional, but also having fun in what's a very high stress, high anxiety league. And I think Caleb and really a lot of our young players have really done a nice job of preparing. Playing hard, mistakes happen. No one's ever played a perfect game, but learning from it. And he's every day he's on those jugs catching footballs. So, when the next opportunity presents itself, he'll make the play. But he'll also have peace that he's done everything in his power to make those plays for our team. We got a lot of young players who are doing a lot of good things and developing.
When we were chatting for a brief time on the sideline before the Falcons game at Georgia Dome, I kind of saw you looking around and stuff. And, then as I was walking away, I was like, damn. This is a really, really special building for Brian Flores because of that Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, there's a spot on the field where I remember just being on with my 2 boys. We had a nice moment there, and that was kind of what I was thinking about. And, it's a lot of great memories there. But we made some new memories there on Sunday.
Yeah, you mentioned the chaotic nature and the pressure of everything going so quickly during the course of a football game. Then all of a sudden you got the backup starting, then the backup to the backup comes in, and you've seen so much, man, through all those Super Bowls and your head coaching time, and with Tomlin last year, and just everything you've seen in your career. And I'm going to guess that really circumstances like that. I mean, have you ever come across anything quite like what you saw on Sunday?
Not quite, but adversity is a part of our game, and I think we don't know in what form the adversity is going to take place, but we know it's coming. The players are good, the coaches are good, the ball bounces in funny ways, so that's part of when you're game planning and you're coaching, you're having conversations with players, with coaches. Our response to that adversity has got to be a big part of who we are.
Right.
And I think our group, I think they're learning to respond, or to see those situations as opportunities to help our team to make an impact in a positive way for our team, because adversity's coming and you got to embrace it.
Do you enjoy this time of the week? I mean, the game day obviously is great. Maybe the Saturday at the team hotel, you get a chance to relax, finalize the plan and things like that. But why I ask is because I just coming up with the defenses that from Harrison Smith and so many that with whom I've chatted are like, no, I've never seen anything like this. And the way it changes with fluidity on a weekly basis. And, when you hear somebody like Harrison Smith and some other, respected veterans say things like that, I'm thinking like you're like looking at film and like, yes, they think this is going to be a high percentage blitz and I'm going to rush too. And now that you have 600-ish plays of equity during 9 games, is how enjoyable is it putting together something you can show compared to what you're going to run?
First of all, I say there's nothing better than game day. I love all of it, but game day is just there's just something euphoric about playing in this league at this level, with all the great players and all the great coaches, and nothing better than that. That's why we put all this work in during the week.
Yeah.
But I also love game planning.
Right.
It's just.
Even though the best laid plans they are going to change during the course of the race, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many adjustments that are made in game based on, what we see, based on an injury, based on, several different things that occur. But, you go into it with a plan based on what the offense does, who their top players are, and really what we've done. I think self-scout is a big part of what we try to do as a staff, and I can't take all the credit for it. I mean, we've got a great staff, and it's certainly a collaborative effort. Monday evening, Tuesday, all day, and we can be making little tweaks to it really up until game time, and knowing that we're going to make adjustments in the game. But we try to make it as we spend a lot of time trying to make it as easy for the players as possible. Oftentimes I'm in meetings saying, hey, look, this change is minor for us, but it's major for them.
Wow.
So that's really what we're trying to do. And a little tweak or a position switch or alignment, a foot to the left or a foot to the right could make a difference between the center blocking them or the guard blocking them, or just a little bit of a show of a pressure that's not a pressure, or a pressure that is a pressure. I think all those things, because I know offensive coaches are looking at everything, and if you do the same thing every week, they're going to find you.
Right.
They're just too good in this league.
And the complementary fashion of the offense and the defense meshing in really unseen fashion, because, I mean, they're the offense, they're on the field, you're the defense, you're on the field. Field position is what's given to you. And what I mean is, like, it's just been fascinating to see, specifically like in Green Bay. Okay, so here comes the BYU rookie, Preston Smith with the strip sack. There they are at the 15. They still have a chip chair and a chance to get back in this thing. And they go backwards. And then it's fourth and whatever. They try to run for it. They don't get it. Then you go to the Atlanta game. You got Lorenzo Carter, 0, running down the sideline. He's at the 1. Then they go backwards and they settle for a Young Wei-Koo field goal. I mean, when we look back at the totality of the season, wherever this thing ends, moments like that where, the offense picks up the defense in certain situations, but the defense of late, specifically without Jefferson and during much transition, has absolutely had to pick up not only the offense but the team, and those are a couple of moments right there.
Well, I think it's a team game. KO talks about that all the time. It's something that I wholeheartedly believe in. It's and in those moments where we have to pick each other up. I mean, look, we're a family. I think that saying is thrown out there a lot. But I think within this team, once you start to get into this portion of the season, and you've dealt with some adversity, and you want to pick up your teammates, and I think that's what's going through our minds when those situations occur, and our guys have been able to rise to the occasion in those moments. And there's a camaraderie and there's some bonds that have been formed, collectively as an entire team, but specifically on defense. I mean,
right.
These guys really, care for one another. It's their defense, not mine. I've tried to, talk to them about that really, since I got here. And they've taken to that, and that ownership. With that ownership has comes a camaraderie that's grown into something real nice. But we, obviously we know we still have a long way to go here and much more to improve on. But there's some things that we can certainly build on.
And during the course of the run through 9, there I would imagine there has to be vulnerability and culpability and honesty. Where if pride is the root of all evil, the worst thing to hear when a mistake is made is nope, it's your fault. No. Well, let's go and take a look at it and figure out. And the example that I will recall takes us back to, I believe it was week 2. So yeah, I think it's fair to say everybody who plays the most defensively did not know week 2 as much as they know now. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, here's the deal. Devontae Smith gets behind the defense. I got no idea what's happening. I'm just calling the play. We go to break. I put my binoculars on the sideline. And I see you walk up to, I think it might have been Byron Murphy or somebody, and you're like tapping your chest, which from afar I'm thinking that's like, hey, my bad, or on me or something like that. And I'm like, whoa, that the best of the very best in all walks of life have that vulnerability, culpability, and this might not have gone right. Let's fix it and let's move on. Is that a fair way to look
Absolutely.
at it?
I think, and we talk about this, as a team, as a defense. You can't improve until you, take it upon yourself to be vulnerable in the moment and say, I need to be better. Because once you do that, then really the sky's the limit.
Right.
Because you can then take the appropriate steps to, make the decisions or make the corrections necessary to get the results you're looking for.
Yeah.
We have that as coaches. Obviously, players have that. But individually, and in everything we do, as husbands, as fathers, as brothers, as what I mean, as
friends,
as friends in every area of our lives, vulnerability and just that taking those steps to have just self-improvement. I think that's you need that.
Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. We start the show with B-Flow. A personal question quickly, if you don't mind. What was it like for you growing up, as I recall, in a tough part of New York City?
That experience, I think, is something that that's still, like, you peel back the layers, and I'm still that kid from Brooklyn. So there's a grit, a toughness, or
and aggressiveness.
That's still kind of embedded in me from that time. But it's also, a lot of the things that I think about from that time. I mean, it was tough, but there's still a lot of great people there that I still keep in touch with that helped me, grow and learn and become the person that I've become today. It wasn't, all bad. Although there were some negative situations, but it wasn't all bad.
Yeah, and tough part of town doesn't necessarily have to mean, like gang life or bullets flying all over the place. I mean, it's they're a part. I grew up in Washington D.C. and that's a lot different than where I live now in Eden Prairie. You know what?
I live in Eden Prairie too. It's very different.
Right. You might be the most aggressive person at trying to get through those lines at the mall in Christmas season. I might have to avoid you. When Danielle Hunter is super physical and wrecking the run, how does that help the totality of what you do?
Look, I said this yesterday in the presser. I think last week was his best game that I've seen him play, and there were no sacks in the game. Which and look, he's a terrific pass rusher, but he brought a physicality and a mentality to the game that I think it resonated within the entire defense and really probably the entire team.
Right.
I already told him, this is what I'm looking for.
Right.
Week after week after week, and I think Danielle is a quiet. He just goes about his business, but. He led by example in a major way,
right?
And he's done that really all year.
And when your best players do that, man, it's it's like the first, second, third year guys like whoa, they got to jump up a little bit, right? What have Harrison Smith and Jordan Hicks meant to you as true leaders on and off the field?
Again, like my relationship with Harrison, with Jordan Hicks, with Harrison Phillips, with Danielle, I mean, these are all growing. Like, I've only been here still 7-8 months, 9 months. So, as the weeks go by, those relationships are growing. And, specific to Harrison and Jordan, these are two guys who have played a lot of ball in this league. And they're really coaches on the field. And guys who, take, my message and, spread that message to a lot of the young players and really to the team. And I think they've done a fantastic job of that. And then they're playing some really, really good football as well.
Yeah.
And it's important to them, and they want to get it right. But again, as far as ownership of the team, they've taken that. So there's a lot of conversations between myself and, those two, and Harrison Phillips and Metellus and Murphy and Bynum, where it's, I'm asking them, hey, I'm thinking about this conceptually, who do you think is better to do this? Metellus or Beasley? And Beasley's like, I'll take it.
Wow.
And Metellus will do this. And I think that once they're buying in that way, it's just, it works better.
Yeah.
They've got ownership.
Inclusion.
It's theirs. It's not mine. It's theirs.
Right.
Hey, they said, hey, Coach, can we do this? Can we put this pressure in? Well, let me look at it. And I've always told them, I don't care where good ideas come from. I really don't. So if they've got something, or if there's a blitz or an adjustment in game, you may see us huddled around the sideline. Myself, Durante Jones, our secondary coach, Saravo, and it's, us three with Metellus and Hicks and Harrison Smith, and we're trying to figure out, what adjustment, which coverage we need to go to, or what check we can go to, based on what they're doing. I mean, all those conversations are happening, and they're good.
Yeah. That's Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, and we thank him very much for starting the show with B-Flow. And the Minnesota Vikings take on the New Orleans Saints this weekend. B-Flow's defense back in play against Derek Carr. Now, tomorrow, 9 to noon, has a hockey bent to it. We begin the show with Dino. Begin the show with Dino. Dean Evison, coach of the Minnesota Wild,
Looking
right
for
out of the
three
gate.
in a row for Dino.
Yep, and they take on the Rangers, the red, white, and blue of Madison Square Garden immortality. Dino tomorrow at 9. Bob Motzko, coach of the Golden Gophers hockey team, is going to be joining us frequently. In fact, maybe weekly during the Golden Gophers hockey season, and that starts tomorrow at 10:47. For Eric Nordquist and Brett Blakemore, I'm Paul Allen. Thank you for listening to 9 to Noon. Have a wonderful day.
Not getting hassled, not getting hustled, keeping your head above water, making a way. The game is over. Temporary layoffs. Good times.
#Fake Radio.
Good times. Scratching and surviving. Good times.
Play around with a bad football team, bad things happen.
Good times. Ain't we lucky?
Wow, wasn't that fun?
Good times.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.